My arm meat looks smaller than normal. Shut up. So I don't know if you've heard, but there's an exciting new Pokemon clone that came out. It's called Palworld. Did you hear about it? And I've been playing it way too fucking much. I'm dehydrated as hell and addicted as fuck. I'm not a juggalo, I swear. I'm probably late because I don't even know if there's buzz anymore, and I don't even know if I'm gonna edit this in a reasonable time. But there's just a lot of buzz around it and a lot of controversy in quotation marks because it's a fucking game about catching colorful mascot animal things. Like, obviously, the first thing is that is noticeable about Palworld is it's great, and it's being compared to Pokemon quite a bit. I wonder why. It's more like Pokemon than Temtem was, because I remember Temtem coming out, and the gameplay felt exactly like Ruby and Sapphire, or like one of the good generations of Pokemon, but everything was a double battle, so it was kind of a slog. But in terms of mechanics and everything, there was an analog for anything Pokemon, and it felt like I was playing the best Pokemon game I'd played in a long time. It just became a slog. But this, in terms of design and like the world, feels even closer. And the funny thing is, like, it's so close that some of the designs of the pals are like the best Pokemon designs we've gotten in a long time. I mean, not even counting the ones that are just plagiarized or copied or parodied or whatever you want to call it. Some of them are really genuinely like the best designs Pokemon has had in a minute. And you know what? A lot of that is because I'm gonna say it. Pokemon has not been doing so well lately. It's been on a pretty steady decline. Cat? Two cats. There's a very real sect of like diehard fans that are just shielding and defending Pokemon from any criticisms and just denying any sort of like drop in quality. And like one of my favorite things to see whenever you criticize new content or I hate that word. Like anytime you criticize new entries or anything in a franchise, somebody comes in and says, just be grateful you're getting anything at all. Like it's some kind of slop you should just accept, take it in for what it is and enjoy it. And don't you dare say anything negative about it. They worked hard on that gruel. You enjoy that shit. Like, remember all them frame drops and pop-ins and stuff in Scarlet and Violet? Enjoy that. How dare you notice it? How dare you mention that it takes you out of the game, seeing half the world materialize as you're walking forward or whatever. You just ingest your fucking meat paste and you live on it. And, like, one of the things, too, is when critics will say, like, oh, it's just you boomers not liking the changes they've made to the Pokemon games since the originals. You just want red and blue or gold and silver. You can't accept anything else. It's definitely not because the designs have, like, become fucking garbage. I mean, one of them is a goddamn penguin with an ice cube on his head. You can't tell me thought went into that. And I know not all of the original designs were great, but, like, come on, man. The games have just become soulless cash grabs since the 5th gen. Like, I played a good chunk of Black and liked it, and Diamond and Pearl I liked. They were just kind of slow. I mean, it was a new engine hardware thing, but I think Crystal or something, whatever that fucking third game of that generation was, fixed it. And by Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it was a great engine. But I've been told that like Black and White 2 is where it really started because that's when the hand-holding started and the games just become easy. I mean, you can run through like 20 trainers and not have to heal. I mean, that was a problem in Shining Pearl, and I couldn't put my finger on it for the longest time. I was like, why does this just feel like I'm blasting my way through like battle after battle? And that's because I played Heart Gold a little bit after that, and I was like, oh yeah, used to actually have to try back in the day. But they want babies to buy these games to make even more money, and all I gotta do is just keep shoveling out the same generic, bland gameplay and just make sure it's polished. Unless it's Scarlet and Violet, or like Let's Go, Eevee and Pikachu. Those games looked polished, the last two, definitely not the first two. But good luck catching things with that garbage style. The point there was that the games all had the same gameplay except for those last 4 crusty games. What the fuck is blocking my monitor over there? Also, this is definitely the same day and not future crossed off-center dippy. And like Arceus was a good start of a game, but it just felt so empty, and I don't know, like the graphics felt like a PS2 game at times. I guess that last part's kind of nitpicky, but the game definitely just felt like they started something and were like, fuck it, sell this. And then right afterwards, Scarlet and Violet come out, maybe like a year later or something, and you could tell it was rushed. I mean, playing Palworld on like the lower settings, because I have to play on like low to medium, going lower than that starts to feel like Scarlet and Violet. Things just pop in. It just looks like crust. It's a thing. Certainly happened. I mean, obviously, Palworld uses Unreal Engine 5, so there's that. But I mean, Nintendo is also a billion-dollar company, so I mean, there's that. But yeah, they've just been following a similar path to Sonic games, and I've been saying it for years. And nobody will believe me because nobody even knows I exist. But it just became like almost like a yearly thing where they just threw out more and more, and the fans just kept buying it and valiantly defending it. It's a very similar path. You can't criticize the bad Sonic games for being bad. There's tons of apologists that come out and say, accept the fact that we're getting new Sonic games or Pokemon games. Like, how dare you say anything bad about them? No, they're actually good. Like, you're just a boomer that wants the old style back. It's like, we just want games. Liking a franchise, I haven't really seen too many people cling to the old ways and say it has to be like this all the time. As a matter of fact, it's a lot of burnout and just people saying, like, why can't they be good? We want them to be good like the old days. They don't have to be the old days. It just has to not suck. They used to try back before the franchise was... Well, the franchise was always as big as it was. So for 5 generations, they were trying all kinds of, like, interesting things that were different. And they made the games fun and engaging and challenging. And it was a good balance overall. And they were, like, pushing the graphics and the worlds and whatever they could to try and make it more interesting and change up maps and stuff. Take new influences. And then they were just like, money. Give money, get to more baby play game, and take baby money. And it's worked. And nobody... I don't even fucking... Nobody saw it coming. Don't worry, this whole thing won't be shitting on Pokemon, just like most of it. And Game Freak actually like responded to this game, which a lot of people were saying they were shocked that they did, but you didn't think Game Freak would say something? I mean, even without all the fans telling on them, I mean, it could be assumed by their response that they were getting a lot of reports about the plagiarism and this game basically being like an offshoot of Pokemon, as if Nintendo made it or something, but put guns and capturing and breeding people. Oh, apparently Nintendo apologized for Palworld. I mean, Scarlet and Violet. Found out while trying to look up the response. But yeah, a lot of these, like, people that defend Pokemon and just stand by it and refuse to see any issues with Nintendo or anybody. They've been, like, telling on Palworld, snitching on them, trying to get Nintendo to attack and take the game down. And I've seen a lot of people just wanting it dead and gone because they don't see the game for what it actually is. And they don't like the fact that it's more successful. Well, not more, but it's been so successful. It's been compared to Pokemon in a way that makes Palworld look very favorable, while Pokemon doesn't. And rightfully so. And it just, I guess it led to Game Freak being like, okay, we get it. Just stop. As nicely as they could. Why is my cat freaking out? And of course, they say, like, we have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets, blah, blah, blah. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, we know you didn't. But a lot of people are going to them probably saying, like, hey, did you license this? Hint, hint. I'm sure. I mean, that's all conjecture. But, I mean, and, like, I'm sure by now they didn't even need to be told about this. And they're just, you know, of course they're going to say, we're investigating this. But, like, you probably already have been. You didn't need all these Poke plebs to come sick you on them or whatever. But then, like, one line that I really just, it makes me die reading it, is when they say, like, we will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon and its world, and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future. Like, motherfuckers, when have you cherished and nurtured any of them after, like, 2010? It's just been reusing models, reusing whatever assets you could, like releasing slop. You haven't cherished and nurtured anything except the money that this keeps printing out for you. I haven't seen, like, a Pokemon game that was as fun and engaging as Black and White since Black and White! Or Palworld. And, like, one fan, when Palworld was just starting to take off, I saw him on Twitter saying, like, Palworld does not make a good substitute for Pokemon. Like, motherfucker, Pokemon hasn't made a good substitute for Pokemon in over a decade. Like, Palworld ain't substituting shit. Palworld's just a game that kind of is just, you know, ripping off some designs and parodying it. It's all just a big joke, but they also tried to make it fun.